Good evening. Thank you for coming to listen to my story. It's not easy for me to talk about my story, about my life that I suffered during the years of Hitler's regime. But I realized that this story has to be told. The average survivor is now around 80 years old. It won't take long. They all will be gone. So this story has to be told and repeated, that this tragedy should never happen again. It's 66 years ago, in 1939, the summer was a good, supposed to be a happy summer for a 10-year-old child, a 10-year-old girl. I was that time 10 years old. We were looking forward to vacation, to have a good time that children are supposed to have. But this was a terrible summer. The whole summer was filled with fear that a war is coming, a Hitler. I heard his screaming, his shouting, Jude, Jews, Jews, everything Jews. Everything he blamed on the Jews, and he hated the Jews. He couldn't wait till he has opportunity to kill them. Sure enough, 1939, September 1st, he wanted a part of Poland, a city, and the Polish people would not give it to him, and the war started. The tragedy of the Jewish people, and I would say the world, started that summer. We feared Hitler. We were afraid of Hitler. When Hitler occupied Poland and came into my hometown, that was not far from Warsaw, about 25 miles, about 50 kilometers, it meant about 25 miles. And he came in very angry and was looking for the Jews. They took away everything we owned. They took away, my father had a business, we had a coal business. We were middle class people. My father made a good living, not rich, but middle class. They took away all our belongings. They threw it out from our apartment. They beat us. We could not walk on the sidewalks. We had to walk in the streets. They treated us worse than animals. It was hard for a 10-year-old to understand that, but I would never question it. I would see that even my parents had no answer to give me a real answer that would satisfy. The only answer was Hitler hates the Jews. They started a ghetto. They took the worst part of our town and surrendered all the Jews and put us in a ghetto. It wasn't an open ghetto that you could go in and out. It was all encircled with barbed wire fences. You couldn't get out and in. It was patrolled by the Polish police, German Gestapo, and food started to be very scarce. We would get just the rations. But this was not enough. As soon as we settled in the ghetto in my hometown, we were ordered to come to the railroad station, just take one suitcase, and they were going to send us away again somewhere. We didn't know where. We obeyed, we did report to the railroad station. Then they put us in cattle cars. It was a short distance to Warsaw, but they kept us in the cattle cars for days. We didn't know where they were going, where they're going to send us. When they opened the cattle cars, most people were gasped for air. They were dead people. We didn't have any food. We didn't have any facilities for anything. Then they screamed, German soldiers, German women dressed in white uniforms, clean, and they kept kicking us out. And we marched to a place where it was high school, and the German woman separated us, the men from the women. The children went with the mothers. They took us in this high school, and they shaved everybody's hair. In the lousing, they were worried that we will get sick. And then they marched us to the Warsaw Ghetto. The Warsaw Ghetto was, if I cannot say this in a church, but it was hell on earth. They put in 500,000 people in maybe 850 acres of land, the worst part of the city. They took away, we had no food. People were dying, starving. Little children were laying in the streets covered with newspapers because they didn't have enough time to pick them up, to bury them. They buried them in mass graves, thousands and thousands of people in one grave outside the ghetto. The hunger was unbearable. We would get a ration with frozen potatoes, a piece of stale bread. It could not sustain any human being. Things were getting desperate. And then little children took upon themselves to maybe they could do something to feed their parents or their older sisters and brothers. We were a family of 10, my parents and 10 children, but some of them were already old and they were married. And I saw little children were trying to go through the barbed wire fences and go on the other side of the ghetto where you could get food. The Polish people, they didn't go hungry. They had food. Only the Jews in the ghetto were starving. So this was very risky. It meant if the patrol will see you, you will be shot right on the spot. But hunger is such a powerful thing that you'll do anything to get some food. And I decided that I will do that too. If other kids can do it, I'll do it. I would go out, I would watch when the patrol would look away. I would lift the barbed wire fence, crawl under, and came on the other side of the ghetto. And we had to wear, after 10 years, you had to wear in Warsaw, we didn't wear the yellow star. We were wearing armbands, white armbands with the Star of David. and it had to be made to measurements. It had to be clean. If not, just for that, they would kill you. But I was afraid I couldn't wear that outside, so I was hiding it. In the beginning, I just went out a short distance. I was begging, and people would give me a tomato or a piece of bread. And when I brought this in the ghetto, and I saw the faces of my sisters and brothers, a piece of bread, it was gold. But things, and little by little, I started to go farther, to bring home more food. And I would go about 25 miles to my hometown where there were Christian people that knew my parents. I knew that they will help me. And I went, the peasants were very good people, and they would give me food in as much as I could carry, but I would carry a bundle in the front and a bundle in the back, and that's how I walked. To my hometown to Warsaw was a straight highway, but I was afraid to walk on the straight highway because there was always German patrols. I would walk on the side. Sometimes I came across a creek. I didn't know how deep it is, if I can cross it, if I can go. I didn't know what to do. It was a big burden on a 10-year-old. But I grew up. I grew up overnight. Without years, I got old. And then things were getting much harder. There were announcements. Any Jew that will be caught outside the ghetto will be shot, and any Christian who helps a Jew will meet the same fate. And the Christian people, they wanted to, many of them wanted to, they thought this is wrong. They said, when they get through with the Jews, we will probably be the next to kill and to do that to us. They were afraid. I went to the peasants, to the people, begged for food. They were afraid to let me sleep in their house. I would sleep in the barn. They said, don't tell us. If we know that you are there, we won't sleep. This way, they cannot make us say if we don't know. There were people that collaborated. There were also Christian people, Polish people. They collaborated with the Germans for a small amount of food or sugar, or they would point the fingers. They would say, these people hide a Jew. Here's a Jew, there's a Jew. People were scared. The good people, they were scared. And I continued my journey. Even if it was dangerous, I still kept doing it. And then in 1942, it was in July, I came back to Warsaw, and I saw people talking and gathering and the Polish people that the Germans are liquidating the ghetto. They're taking all the Jews away from the ghetto and they shipping them out somewhere nobody knew where. Here there was a curfew. After 8 o'clock, you could not be seen on the streets of Warsaw. If you would be, if a patrol would see you, you could be shot on the spot. And it's getting late, and I didn't know, I couldn't get in the ghetto. The ghetto was patrolled from outside to inside. I couldn't find a spot to get in. And the curfew is coming, it's getting late. Somewhere 8 o'clock is still light, it's still nice. I just picked a house. I just knocked. Warsaw had big buildings. In every building had a janitor. And I knocked in the gates, and the janitor didn't know everybody in the building. And I told him that I live in the building, and he let me in. And here I am, I have no place. Where do I go? I knocked on a door, and an older lady opened the door, and she let me in. And I told her a story. I don't know if she suspected I'm Jewish or not. She didn't show it. I told her, you can take all the food I have, but let me sleep overnight. Can I stay here overnight? And she said, it's okay with me, but my daughter and my son-in-law, when they come back from work, I have to check with them. They came and they agreed. The next day, I saw Jewish people on the other side in the ghetto, very close to the wire fences. One was a little bit away from the rest of the people, and I tried to get his attention, and I did. I told him my story. I said, I'm a Jewish child. I told him what I was doing. I was going in to bring some food in for my family. What should I do? I don't know if they're still alive, if they're taken away, if he can help me. He said, it just happened that I live not far from where your parents live, and I'll go and find out what's happening. I doubt, he said, that they are still there because they took them all away. The next day, the man told me that they took him all away, and he said, child, don't try to go back in the ghetto. Save yourself, do anything you can. Just don't go back in the ghetto. I didn't know anyone in Warsaw. This lady, they let me stay another night, and then I walked back to the peasants, and I told them what's happening. Well, they were afraid to let me stay in their houses, but in the summer I slept in the fields. I even slept on the cemetery, the local cemetery. It wasn't bad, but in the winter time, I couldn't be in the fields. So I used to sneak in to sleep with the horses. It was warm, and I trusted the horses. And I lived like that. Where I spent the night, I didn't spend the day. I had always be on the moving, because I was afraid. I was afraid anybody looked at me, that they recognized me. And then I went into a peasant's, and they knew. I had a brother in Warsaw, but was left to work. I didn't know at that time, but my brother always knew when I go out from the ghetto, where the vicinity, where I will be. My brother was left in the Warsaw ghetto to work in an ammunition factory outside Warsaw. He was taken out every day with other Jews to work in the factory, and then they took him back to the ghetto. And there he befriended a Polish man, a very nice gentleman, and he told this gentleman, I have my story. I said, I have a little sister, she's somewhere in this area, and I wonder if she's still alive, what's happening to her. And he asked this man if he could not mail a letter for him to the peasants to find out if I'm alive. And this man did. And the peasants received that letter. And my brother told her, in that letter, my brother told him that he's alive, that the Germans left a certain amount of Jewish, still healthy-looking people to help them to build in ammunition factories, in sewing factories. There were all kinds of factories where they used Jewish slaves. And my brother wanted me to come. He wants to see me. If that man would let me, this couple would let me stay in their house, and if I would see they march him out and in from the ghetto, and I did. I walked to Warsaw. These people let me stay with them, and I saw my brother, and my brother told this man that he would, if I could, buy him a bread and somehow give it to him, that would be a big help. The people gave me money. I didn't have money. I bought a big bread, and I sneaked in, and I gave him the bread. And one of the patrols, they saw it, and they took me, they grabbed me by my hair out of the line, they pushed me against a wall, they beat me and kicked me, but they didn't know I'm Jewish, because they would right away finish me. They just, how dare you giving food, how dare you giving food to Jews. They kicked me, beat me, let me go. I faced that so many times. Every time I thought, this is it, I won't survive. And that's how I lived. I went back to the peasants. I lived from peasant to peasant, hiding out. In 1943, my brother left words with these people that the Jewish, the people that are left in the ghetto, they heard rumors that the Germans will liquidate the ghetto. They will take them all out and send them to Treblinka. My brother he told the men that the Jews decided they will not let the Germans take them alive. In the meantime, they built bunkers. They equipped them with anything they could get from the outside, from the underground, with medicine, with homemade bombs, anything they could. And they thought whoever will be alive after the uprising will go in the bunkers, and maybe they will live. My brother wanted me to go in with him, but I refused. I would not go. I didn't want to go. I said, if I have to be killed and die, I want to die under the stars, not in a bunker. And sure enough, the Germans always picked a Jewish holiday to commit the most atrocities. In a Jewish holiday, it was Passover, April 19th, the night of Passover. They surrendered the ghetto. They came to take out the rest of the Jews in the morning, but the Jews would not go. They were fighting. They fought back with anything they had. They would not go. The Germans were caught by surprise. They didn't expect that. And there were many German casualties because they didn't expect such an uprising. But to the end, of course, the Jews knew that they won't win. To the end, the Germans burned every house, and they took the rest who survived. They took him to Treblinka, the concentration camp. My brother, they all, in some others, they knew that this is their last stand. If they have to fight back, they have to do it now. They had saws, little files. They had cyanide poison. If everything fails, they will take the poison and they will kill themselves. My brother, as the trains were going fast, they were filing the locks. And when they filed and the locks open, and when the trains were going on the corners slower, they would jump. Many of them would jump from the train. But the Germans were shooting after them, and very few could make it in the woods. Treblinka was in a beautiful surrounding, beautiful woods all around, and they would hide in the woods. Who made it? Well, my brother made it, and he disguised himself as a baker. He went into a bakery, he took the basket with flour, put it on his head, and that's how he walked into Warsaw. And he came, he knew where I will be, and I found out that he jumped the train, that he is alive. My brother came also, was hiding by Christian peasants. He was helping them in the fields, but the Germans always came to look for Jews. And he was caught by surprise, and he was running, and he was shot. He did not survive. From the whole family, I survived. Uncles, grandparents, nieces, nephews, nobody. I survived under terrible, terrible circumstances. When I look back now, I don't know myself how I could do it. How did I do it? What threat was I to the Germans? How could a 10-year-old child be made to suffer so much? I was not the only one. There were many, many more. And they killed 6 million Jews, 1.5 million babies. How many great minds were destroyed? How many composers, how many writers were destroyed? In what name? Because they were born Jews. Can we pick who we want to be? Can we pick our parents? What crime did the Jews commit? I keep asking this over and over, but there is no answer. The answer is that the world, it makes me sometimes angry. Where I thought I'm the only one alive. I thought I have to survive to tell the world what's going on. Because there were times I couldn't fight anymore. I was just ready to give up. Then a voice would say, no, you have to survive. You have to tell what's going on. Well, when I survived, I found out that the world did know what was going on. The world did let 6 million people be killed with the most brutal ways. People still alive, to put them in the showers and to put the gas on them. People still alive, they had to dig their own ditches, and they were shooting them, they were falling into the ditches. Still alive, they were burying them. Where was the world? Why didn't anyone come to our rescue? There are a lot of unjust things still going on, and we have to promise that if we can, we'll make a difference. Because even one person could make a difference. One person, Schindler, if you read Schindler's List, one person made a difference. He saved Jews. My granddaughter when she graduated high school, the teachers gave him, she was selected to give a speech, and they could write anything they wanted, and she decided to write about Schindler, that one person can make a difference. And she read this in front of her high school graduation. So it's no excuse for people that were saying we couldn't do it. We didn't know. They knew, and they let this happen. So I hope that my story and stories of other survivors will make a difference, that anything like this will never, ever happen again. There were attempts to wipe out the Jewish people many, many times. And this time, Hitler almost accomplished it. And I remember I was raised in a very religious Orthodox Jewish home. We always we prayed. In the Jewish religion, there are prayers for everything, for water, prayer for water, prayer for fruit, a prayer for potato. We always prayed. In my home, where I grew up, we always prayed. A prayer when you go to sleep, a prayer when you get up. I remember I learned in my Jewish religious education a promise God gave to the Jewish people, that there will be many attempts to wipe you out, but you will multiply like the stars in the heavens. The Jewish people will never disappear from this earth. And this was always with me. Maybe God will fulfill this promise. The Jewish people will overcome, they will survive, and we survived. I tell the story to my children and my grandchildren, and they want to know, they can't understand how could that have happened? But it did happen. And if anyone denies that there was a Holocaust, they should only listen to the stories from the survivors. Every survivor has a different story. Every survivor survived a different way. Many times I said, why am I chosen? Why did God choose me to survive? My brothers, my sisters were better than I was. They were older, they were more educated, they could contribute more. Why? That's what happened. Not because I was smarter, I was better, because I was chosen to survive. And I tried to tell the stories so people will remember and won't let a tragedy like this happen again. Thank you for listening.
Esther would be glad to answer questions if there are any questions, and we can do that for a few minutes. Does anyone have a question? Yes?
How old were you when you came to the States?
How old were you when you came to the States?
Oh, I was in my early 20s. I came in 1949. After I survived, there was no place to go. There was no home for the Jewish people. I had nowhere to go, but then we heard rumors that the Americans are putting up in Germany places for displaced people. We were displaced people. We went to the P camp in Germany, but they kept us there from I got there from 1946, 47 to 1949, we were in the P camps in Germany. I got married there, I met my husband there. He was also a survivor. He lost more than 3 brothers in the war. And I had my baby there in Germany. She was born in Germany. And then we had a sponsor. My husband had a sponsor in Rock Island, a family, who signed. We had to sign papers that we won't be a burden to the American government, that we'll never ask for welfare, that we'll take care of ourselves. And the family brought us down here to New York, and then from New York we came to Rock Island. And Rock Island is my home for the last 50-some years. My husband died about 23 years ago. He had a bad heart from all but he had surgery and he didn't make it. So I'm a widow since 1982. My husband died. My children are educated. I have a son and a daughter. They live in suburbs of Chicago. My daughter is a teacher. My son is a lawyer. They're going to school in Champaign, Illinois. And we were never a burden to the government.
Good question. Margaret, you answered all your questions.
I have a question.
Okay.
Has she ever had a chance to visit Israel?
Been back to Israel? Been to Israel?
I went twice to Israel. I went in 1973 with my son, and I went back to Poland in 1985. My son, but shows a great interest in the survivors and in the Holocaust. He expressed a desire. He wanted to see my roots. He wanted to see where all this happened. And we went back to Poland. I went back to Warsaw. I saw him where I was. We went to Auschwitz. He came back with a different understanding. he recommends that anyone who can see it firsthand should. And that's.
Any other questions? Well, thank you very much, Esther, for
Thank you
being
for
with us
having me.
tonight.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Let's share together in prayer before we leave. Our God, we pray that hearing this story will make us, each one, more loving and kind to others, and to fight hatred wherever it raises its ugly head. Be with and bless each one who goes from this place as we go back into this new week. We pray in your holy name. Amen.